Hi, I'm with Jordan Berkeley, and we're here at Groot's Elk Grove Village Recycling and Waste Facility to talk about recycling, talk about how we can improve our recycling efforts in our community. This is an issue that some constituents bring up to me periodically. Every once in a while there's a bill that we deal with in Springfield dealing with recycling. And one thing that I have learned over the years is that the quality of products that end up here is not what it should be. In other words, some of the things that we hope will be recycled and turned into something else, there's a hiccup in that process because the quality of the things going in the bin is contaminated in some way. And you normally think of contamination as, being something really toxic, but it could be something like a pizza box is a contaminated cardboard box because it's got the grease and the cheese in there. It really can't be recycled. So I thought it would be pretty cool to come here to the facility, talk to some of the experts who deal with this on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully at the end of this video we can improve our community's recycling efforts. So Jordan, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and so when we had talked previously, you had used an interesting term, and that was wish recycling. So tell us what is wish recycling?
Right. So when we're talking about contamination in the single stream material, we're talking about either two things. One thing is wish recycling. So the consumer thinks that, they with good intention, they think that an item is recyclable and that hopefully it will become another item at some point down in its life. The other item would be just flat out contamination, garbage in the material. So those are the two main things that we struggle with here at this facility.
Right, and so let's talk about the few things. What are the items that you would best prefer to get or are the most easily recycled into other products?
Yeah, so it's those consumable items like water bottles, soda bottles, detergent bottles, junk mail, Amazon boxes, aluminum cans. Those are the things that are very easy for us to recycle.
And they're easy to recycle if they're not contaminated in some way.
Correct.
So describe some contamination in a laundry detergent.
Yeah, so I mean, if you throw a detergent bottle that's maybe a quarter full of detergent, that's a problem for us. If it's a peanut butter jar that's half full of peanut butter, that's an issue.
Right.
We can typically handle a little bit of that residue in there, but it's the large quantities that give us the most problems.
Sure. And why would that be problematic?
So it has to do with the mills that we work with. So they need a certain level of cleanliness in the material for it to move through their system effectively, and they can make the end product that they're designed to make.
Okay. And then with cardboard boxes, what are some of the things that can cause a rejection?
Sure. Yeah.
Those?
So cardboard boxes, probably the biggest issue that we have there is moisture. So mills require a certain threshold for moisture content within those bales. If we exceed that, again, it can end up in a moisture deduction or load rejection.
Okay. And that's because if it's wet cardboard, it cannot be shredded. Is that the idea? Or
yeah, it messes with it. It affects their pulping process, so they need the driest material that they can possibly get.
Talk about some of the consumer products that have mixed material. So we have 4 kids. We eat a lot of instant oatmeal.
Sure.
And so it comes in the cardboard cylinder. It's almost all cardboard, but there's a little plastic ring inside there. What should people do with those sort of things?
Those mixed components, they should be separating those. The lid to your oatmeal container, that may or may not make it through the screen as intended because it is flat. It may go with the fiber materials. So, when it's like kind, so if it's a plastic container with a plastic lid, keeping those together is very helpful for us. But if it's a cardboard container and a plastic lid, they need to be separated because in a paper bale or a fiber bale, the plastic is going to be a contaminant. In the plastic bale, the fiber is going to be a contaminant.
And then just talk about the recycling symbol itself. That can be kind of confusing for people.
Sure.
You have
the number system.
The number system,
Sure.
and just because an item has the triangle on it, the recycling triangle, that doesn't mean
Sure.
necessarily that it should go into their bin, correct?
Sure. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, polypropylene is a good example of that. So you may have a rigid polypropylene, or you can have sort of a flexible pouch type polypropylene, and typically those don't go together in those bales. What we consider, to be a recyclable material, the mill views it differently. They're looking for a very specific makeup or composition of that plastic. So, it's very confusing on the consumer side, having that triangle, having that number. But really, when we go out into the facility, you'll see that our sorters are looking by shape and composition. That's how we sort the material, not so much by the number.
Let's talk about metals.
Sure.
Because cans are something fairly easily recyclable.
Sure.
Aluminum cans would be easily recyclable.
Absolutely.
But you told me that you've found other metals
Sure.
that maybe someone could reuse that metal, but definitely not. It should not go into the.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I've seen things as large as an engine block, right?
Okay.
And it ends up in somebody's cart. Obviously, for us, that's a huge danger, not only to the system, but to our folks that work here.
Right.
Lifting something like that, having it bounce across a screen, very problematic for us.
Hey, why don't we, can we go out to the yard?
Absolutely.
And take a look at some of the equipment, and who knows, maybe we'll see your week's garbage out here, week's recycling out here.
It's possible.
I guess anything's possible, a needle in a haystack. But anyway, so we're going to go out in the yard now and take a look at the machinery and just what Groot does after your bin is loaded on the truck and brought here to Elk Grove Village.
All right, so what are we looking at here?
This is where the magic happens. This is where it begins. So the trucks, all the route trucks will dump up top here. It's an elevated tipping deck here.
Okay.
They'll dump over a ledge down here into this basement level. There's probably about 650 tons sitting on the floor right here.
Wow.
Right now. So these first two doors behind you, that's primarily where the commercial material is dropped. So your businesses are, their cardboard boxes are being dumped here. The rest of the doors, that's primarily single stream recycling from your curbside residential. This building is the pre-sort. So they're looking for big bulky items. Like that's where you're going to see the engine blocks, right?
Okay.
That's where you're going to see big bags of garbage. That's where you're going to try and get your tanglers out, pieces of wood, textiles. We're all trying to get that right there. The rest of the fibers and containers are traveling up this line here.
Okay.
There's fines, so glass and other small cans and containers are traveling up that one. So in here, they're trying to pull out any of the big contaminants. So they're looking for bags of garbage, foam,
some
wood, metal, anything that could either harm the system or be a contaminant at the end of the line. So this is something that we deal with a lot here at this facility, is folks putting their recycled materials into plastic garbage bags.
Got
We
it.
shouldn't be doing that. So in that bag that he just pulled off there, I don't know if it's full of garbage or full of recyclables.
Right.
And I don't want to put my employees at risk to open up those bags to see which it is.
Oh, what about those Amazon Prime or the UPS, the bubble wrap?
If they've got the plastic in them, they're not recyclable. So after the material has gone through those series of fiber screens, it comes into this side of the building where we're going to clean that material a little bit more. So this line right here, we're producing mixed paper. So it goes through an optical sorter, and that optical sorter is taking images of the material and shooting it. So this is a line where we might put additional people or take people off based on the wetness of the material. So there's one other opportunity downstairs where we can place additional headcount and capture more material.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So
Okay,
this was-
here's some stuff that we definitely do not want.
This just came out of one screen, right? Yeah. So this came out of one screen at lunchtime. So we clean twice a day, once at
Okay.
lunch and at the end of the shift.
Wow. Wow.
So that paper that we saw floating up and over the top of this screen here, it'll go through one more optical sorter that'll attempt to throw out the rest of the containers. So the containers will end up on this belt that's closest to us, and the paper is supposed to go on that belt over there. So this is the Hdpe quality control area. So they're pulling out any contaminants. And then further on down the line, they're separating the Hdpe natural, like your milk jugs, from the Hdpe color, like your detergent bottle.
You know, pick out a couple things. Why was it rejected in some way?
This styrofoam item, it looks like a to-go container. That's a contaminant.
Right.
And film plastic is attached to this.
Got two different.
Right. Film plastics. Again, another item that ended up in the wrong area. Paper ended up in the wrong place. A lot of film plastic in here. A lot of shredded paper, a lot of styrofoam.
Okay.
So what should be left at this point is mixed plastic, like number 5 polypropylenes and some of the others.
Oh, and then they were talking about foil. So what kind of aluminum foil should be thrown in there?
Clean.
Just clean. So any food on it, forget about it.
Forget it. So what you see on this line here is what didn't make it in any other portion. So this is the residual. This is the last chance line.
This should eventually go to a mill.
Right.
What happens then?
They're gonna pulp that material. So this is a mixed plastic bale. So primarily number 5 plastics, polypropylene. This is Hdpe natural. This is Hdpe color.
Recycling is not dead. It has a long life ahead of it, and we had to stop and relook at how we're doing things and what we really want recycling to be. We're tackling that as a society right now. What do we want it to be in this country?